so much, everyone, for joining us. I know should be some people popping in, and we're going to record this. So if people want to get a look at it again, we'll have that recording available. But we're so excited that we've been able to do this with Gail. You know, Gail and I have known each other for a number of years, and we were talking about doing something like this as an added value to our clients and her members and such. And we were so glad we could finally put something together. And so today we're going to talk about how to sanely scale your business. And I'll tell you, it is the time to do it for sure. And it is an exciting time in the industry. As wild as the time it is an exciting time. And it's amazing to see everything that's happened. And just a couple of housekeeping things. Like I said, I mentioned we're going to be recording this. And just as a reminder for everybody attending, we're going to be, Gail is so graciously going to be offering a soft copy of her book, which is a business breakthrough, which I have a copy right here, which I'm going to reference later because I have something to talk about.
Oh, good.
And also as a special gift is that she is going to be offering that her and her team are giving everybody a quick call, the opportunity for a quick call. And if you do that call before December 3rd, you can have the opportunity to attend one of her really wonderful challenges, the 3-day planning blueprint challenge, which is going to be happening in January 26th to 28th. It's like a $200 value. So it's really awesome. And just so everybody knows that I've worked with a lot of Gail's clients over the years, and I know how powerful it's helped her clients with this kind of scaling and growth and organizing their companies to do some great things. So we get to see how it's impacted. We usually get them after Gail has kind of got to them and helped them through the process. We get to help them on the other side as they're coming through and they're scaling their business and getting that additional talent. So it's been really cool to see how what she's been doing and her team has been doing to kind of impact their business and see them grow. And some of them I know who just started just a few years ago with just a few people and have grown considerably over the years. And it's pretty wild to see that growth and exciting. But let me start off by talking about Gail, because she is somebody so notable and so glad that she can make the time to do this. So Gail Doby is the co-founder of Gail Doby Coaching Consulting. It's a firm that helps designers, architects, and other creatives increase profitability up to 512%. As the firm's chief visionary officer, Gail does more than help clients. She wrangles decimals on a budget and then wrangles decimals on a budget sheet. She's ran her own firm in Denver, Denver-based firm, but she's got a degree in finance and banking. She's obsessed with sharing innovative ways to overcome business roadblocks, challenges, and detours, challenging her entrepreneurs to face when doing it on their own. She's also works as a strategist, a brand builder, a marketer, operations manager, human resource advisor, and sometimes therapist. I know about the therapist part.
That's part of the job.
No matter what hat she's wearing, I'll tell you, her goal is simple. She empowers the design industry, her clients to differentiate themselves, drive measurable results, achieve business projections, and create personal satisfaction to game-changing strategies and business practices. And I can tell you, it works because, like I said before, I've seen it through the other side. So, Gail, thank you so much for being here. It is an absolute honor to have you, and always, it's so great that I can consider you a friend and a strong relationship that we have, which is great. So, thank you.
Well, I just remember that one time when you and your wife and Garrison Hollinger and I had just a riotous evening where we just laughed our heads off as we were having dinner. So
yes.
I still think back on that with a lot of fond thoughts, and hopefully we'll do that again.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So. And and just for that, we were welcome to be part of one of her boardroom retreats, and we got to go down to Miami, and we got to spend some time with their members, and we got to hear some of the really great, kind of collaborative ideas that they get to share with each other, and they really do help each other out quite a lot, which is really great. Today, what we're going to do is we're talking about this sanely scaling your business. I got some questions that we're going to be talking to Gail about, and then we're going to allow some time for Q&A. So we'll take about 30, 40 minutes or so, and then leave some time for Q&A because I think it's important. And if you have questions throughout, if you want to put them in the chat, we'll make sure we get them. But also, of course, at the end, when we have questions, we'll let you raise your hand virtually, and then you can ask your question, and then we can get that answer to you. So, and then just for those, of course, I'm Ken Roberts, one of the principals of Interior Talent, and so gracious and happy to be part of this event. So let's start. So let's just talk about the last couple of years, Gail, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's been a wild ride for sure. So let's talk about what changes have happened in the last couple of years that are impacting your clients, right? Let's talk about that.
There's so many, and some of these are affecting what you're doing with them too. And I think this is a great conversation for us to be having because we're having lots of conversations today about rapid growth and about the number of projects our clients are handling, which is leading to a huge need for hiring, which is, of course, your expertise and what's so important today. And I think that none of us really anticipated what was going to happen as a result of COVID. And through that whole process of us all having to think about what's happening to our business, what are we going to do? How do we go forward from here? And as we've been quite fortunate in this industry that our clients are very interested in, I'm saying our clients, I'm speaking as a designer right now, but as our clients are in a position where they've spent so much time at home, they want to improve the way their house is functioning, or they want to have it be more beautiful, or they've put off projects and it's time to do something about those, or they're moving into a bigger house because they realize that their kids may have to come back and homeschool occasionally during the middle of this crazy period of time that we're going through. So it's really changed our business overall, and it has made it a very competitive market, as you and I have discussed about trying to hire really good people. And you are in a position where to find really good people, you've got to pay top dollar for them. And you have to have the right kind of company in place to be able to attract the right talent because people aren't just taking jobs to take a job. They want the job to be well compensated, and they also want to work for a company that they really appreciate the culture that they're going to work for. Because I know, Kenneth, you and I talked about that a little bit with
Yeah.
culture. So, what are your thoughts on the culture piece?
I'll tell you, it's really, people ask us all the time, Gail, about what are the reasons why people are making changes. And money may be on the list, but surprisingly, it's probably like three or four.
Mm-hmm.
Really big thing is that culture, and what culture to them is an environment where they feel like they're valued and appreciated. Is a culture where it is a collaborative environment where people are working together as opposed to being told what to do, right? It's in this creative, environment, people want to share ideas. They want to work. They learn from each other. And, I probably use it the wrong way, but there's an old way of thinking in the design community, and there's a new way of thinking, right? The old way of working, crazy hours and punishing people for not getting their 50 hours a week is kind of really what we're seeing as what people are no longer really wanting. So they want a balance in that culture of work life, but they also want a place where the biggest part is they want to believe in the leadership and that they have a plan for the organization, right? So like what we're going to be talking, how do they scale rather than, it always seems to be a 911 when they need somebody,
Mm-hmm.
So I think the big thing is about believing in the leadership and feeling valued in that culture. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
With all these shifts that are happening, what is really required for a designer's business to kind of deal with these changes? What are some of the bullet points that they have to hit in order to deal with these shifts that are happening?
Well, I think this is one of the hardest things, and I only have one friend that actually had realized prior to COVID becoming a thing that it was going to impact his business. He already had a plan where he knew that he was going to scale back his team. He knew who he was going to let go, and at what point he was going to have to make those decisions based on just his expectation of how COVID could affect his business. But on the flip side, I don't know that he really thought about at what point will the business start pivoting the other way. And then you've got to hire again and then restructure your business in order to be prepared for what's happening now, which is this massive growth that we're seeing in the industry. So I think one of the things that I would say is that the designers today have to be proactive and they have to be thinking about what could happen versus what is happening. And I think as a lot of us who are business owners, we tend to be in what's happening today versus what could happen in the future, and what could happen that's good and what could happen that's not so good. Because being able to plan ahead for what could happen will allow you to have some plan A's, plan B's, plan C's, just like my friend did. And so he kind of knew in advance, wow, I need to be prepared for letting people go. So, what does that mean? And what jobs do I need to let go? And it impacted him as an owner because he ended up letting his receptionist admin go. And he had a company of 32 people. So it was really a painful thing for him because he had to take on some of the tasks that he's had outsourced or assigned to other people in the past. So then you flip that over and then you go into rapid growth mode, but you don't know when it's going to start. You don't know how fast it's going to go, and you don't know how big you're going to get. And will those projects go away again when people get nervous? So he's had this really difficult situation, and I'm sharing this because I think it just goes to show that you have to be thinking about all different levels of your business, and you can't just be doing reaction to what's currently in front of you. You have to be thinking about what could happen.
That's so true. And people talk about it all the time. Like, they see this incredible growth happening. Everyone's like, what's the projections for the next couple of years? And listen, we work with large companies and small companies, and I can tell you, there's a lot of money that's flowing into some large projects, which I think will obviously affects everything as you took it down. So I don't see my prediction. I don't see any change for the next couple of years at a minimum. But no one has a crystal ball. Anything can happen. But I think that is so true that they keep waiting to think what's going to happen rather than to really, sometimes you have to make a reaction. You have to affect what's happening now. And like you said, that people are turning away business because they don't have the staff or they don't have the infrastructure set up. And that is really crazy in a time where we don't know if we're going to see this type of boom anytime near in the future, right? There will be a flattening out at some point, right? So it's just amazing. So on that, like, how do you think a designer assesses their business to understand the difference of that between where they are now and where they'd like to be? Like, what do you think that they have to really look at to kind of prepare for that? Because like your friend did, they went a different direction, but here we are. Let's give an example. You got a company, 5 people. This is a typical client of ours. 5, interior design firm, residential. They're probably, the busiest they've ever been. And they're like, we're turning away work because I don't have the staff and I don't have the structure. So let's talk about, how do they assess their business and where, talk about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, I think this is one of the things that is so important to think about is that whatever the current results are that you have, you need to sit down and spend some time and literally get away from the business, go back home and go sit at your kitchen table and sit with a piece of paper and a pen and just think about your business. What's working, what's not working. Whatever's not working, you need to get a handle on it because if you scale your business and things aren't working well, then it only makes it more difficult to scale if you don't have the pieces in place. So that means systems and processes. And whatever your current results are, if you're not liking certain things about the way your business is running or the way the team is operating, then you need to make some decisions about what's the root cause of that problem. So I think today it's about thinking very strategically and analytically about your business, which we are creatives. I'm definitely creative as well. I have a design degree as well. But you have to think about your business from all aspects. And really, about 90% of what you're doing is running a business that happens to do design services or architectural services. And in order to be really successful for the long haul, you have to have a big vision. And it can't be just a week ahead, it needs to be years ahead. And you need to be building for that 10-year vision, even though we're going to have probably another recession somewhere in that 10-year period. You have to plan for this is where I'm going to go. And does that mean that I'm going to open new locations? Does it mean that I'm going to scale my team in my current location? Am I going to add other verticals in my business? So, for example, I have some designers that are looking to add architects to their team now. So what happens if you're going to do that? How do you build a team for the future of the business that you really want to grow? And you have to kind of first do it from the viewpoint of the positivity of, we're going to do this and just assume that everything is going to stay like it is right now, that it's growing and it's great. And you build first, or you design first and get that vision first for what you think you can build or what you want to build. And then you go back and do the analysis and look at the what if scenarios along the way. So I think you have to know a little bit about where you're going to go to know how to build the team, how to build the structure of the company. And one of the things I think is really key and relates to what you do, Kenneth, is that you have to think about your future staffing needs. And you always need to be looking for the next hire, even if you're not ready to hire that person. So I have the opinion that as you're starting to build this vision, that you're looking at, if I'm currently at 5 people and I want to go to 10 people, then what are those hires? Who do I hire in what order? How do I compensate those people? And then you have to build a financial model around where you're going to go. And then what happens if you don't have the sales that you're expecting for it? At what decision point do you have about making a hire or not making a hire? So you kind of have to look at growth and look at your pipeline and be able to analyze whether you've got enough business to be bringing on more team. So it's a really fine balance of trying to figure out all of these things with a moving target that you can't really 100% predict because we don't have that crystal ball, which we wish we did.
So true. You know, and so I noticed some people that are on here that I know there are smaller firms, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we've seen a lot of this, which I'm sure you have as well. Over the last year, there's been a ton of people that have gone on their own, mm-hmm. right? They've broken away from the firms and they've started their own company, and then maybe they have a small design assistant, maybe they're just themselves. And so, like most design businesses, they kind of started that shoestring, right? So they're just kind of getting through, they're getting things going. But you suggest that designers should have a team around them. As you just mentioned, they got to build that team around them. Yeah. How do you build a team? And what are some of the first team members you think you should add? You're just starting out, right? Because I know there's a couple on here that are just starting out. What's your recommendations on that?
Well, mine's a little bit, it's kind of a dual sword here, because I think there are 2 hires that you need to make fairly early. And one of those, you need to have somebody who can take over the business operations for you. So having a good office manager is great, or at least a good bookkeeper that you're outsourcing to. I tend to like to outsource that part first, and then before you hire anybody else or bring somebody on full-time in a full-time position for that, I like to have somebody billable on the team. So I like to add billable people as early as possible to the team and build your team that way. And then that helps to pay for the admin people who are non-billable. So I think outsourcing can always be tied in with a really good staffing plan. And the staffing plan for me, and I run a company that's 100% virtual. So I have full-time employees, I have part-time employees, and I have part-time contractors. So I have a combination of all of those in my business, and I tend to hire specific people with specific skill sets to do certain tasks within the business if it's not full-time. And so you kind of have to look at how much time do I need to have somebody to do a particular task and decide whether that needs to be an employee or whether it needs to be a contractor. And definitely follow the rules for whether somebody's a contractor or not, or the IRS will come after you. But I think it's really important to bring on billable people first.
I think that's great. But I think, I agree with you on the operational side of it, is that, listen, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but there is a real thing, is that a lot of designers are just not good business people. They're just not good at running the business. And, that's something that we're not taught. You're not taught in school. I mean, it's amazing how many design students that I talk to, and they're not giving any kind of education on running a business. Mm-hmm. They just talk about, how to design this space, or AutoCAD or Revit, what have you. So on that, what happens, we see a lot of times that we have a lot of incredible designers. They just really flounder, or having a struggle really organizing the business, from from accounting aspects of it, billing, what have you. And I think it's so great that you said that outsourcing that is a great resource, which I think it can be a very cost-effective opportunity for people where they don't want to bring on another person. But I think that people have to bite the bullet on that pretty quickly, because it's amazing how many things don't get taken care of, whether it's your billable hours are not recorded correctly, or your purchasing aspects of it, you're missing things there. It's amazing the things we hear from the recruiter side, and people tell us like one of the reasons why they want to leave, because their company's floundering from how they organize their business. So I think that's so great, but absolutely, you got to get people to pay for it for sure.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
So to create a successful business, what's the one thing that you recommend designers that you coach that you should be doing that most of them may not be doing now?
Well, there are several things, actually.
I mean, it's a long list, I know, but.
Oh, yeah, it's a long list. Actually, I was just doing a couple of calls with a couple of our mastermind groups before this, and we were talking about the concept of time blocking, which is so incredibly valuable. And a lot of people don't do this, but whatever the results are that you're getting, it's a direct correlation between what you have on your calendar and what you're actually getting as results. And if you don't like your results, then you need to make a change in how you're spending your time. So I'd say that that's one of the things they need to spend more time thinking about, is where they're spending their time and analyzing what it is they're wanting to do, and making sure they're blocking in time so that they're actually working on the business, not just in the business. And I see a lot of people get totally bogged down with their emails and their text messages and going to job sites and having emergency meetings with clients. Well, guess what? Those emergency meetings are probably happening for a variety of different reasons. And the core reason is often because they don't have processes and procedures. They don't have people following those processes and procedures in the business. They're not communicating well with the client and setting expectations. And so I think those are things that the designer needs to look at and say, based on my current results, which of these things do I need to work on? It's going to make my life easier and better, and make my client experience easier and better. And so really
true.
thinking
That's so
about
true.
that
Yeah,
is
that's
going
so
to be
true.
important.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's amazing how that we use that time block mentality, right? That we in the recruiting world, we focus on particular areas, and we administrative responsibilities as an owner. I think it's so important, because you mentioned that. We talked in many of our conversations, you mentioned that, and I used to be kind of a little scrambled, to be honest with you. I wasn't the best at time management at points in my career, and I tell you now, we do that, and we see how effective that can be. That focus, that kind of really making sure that you kind of get those tasks done, and I think that for our design clients is that we see how the ones that do take the time and kind of put that time aside for really taking care of the things that are not that fun, right? Whether it's the billing aspects of it or whatever that may be, and really kind of get that done, how much more effective they can be in really scaling their business to really kind of give room for those other things of growth. So it's so true. That's a really great point. So I want to talk real quick, because your book is awesome. But I don't think I've actually thanked you for sending it to me, by the way.
My pleasure.
So I appreciate it. So thank you. There was a part in here in chapter 5, you talk about teamwork is the ultimate shortcut, right? Talking about scaling, as we're talking about scaling the business, right? I mean, there's a section here that talks about the phases of business you in here, about the sizes of business, and what you should be hiring for some of those things. I think it goes right to what you're saying, right? And then the mentality here that people say they can't afford to hire employees.
They can't afford not to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
How do you get someone out of that mentality? How do you get someone out of that thought?
Well, the first question I have for a lot of people that come to us, in fact, most people now, when they're starting to do our programs, already have a couple of people working for them. But if they, in earlier days, at our earlier part of our business, they might be self-employed and they might not have people working on their team. And I'll just ask the question, what happens if you're not working? How are you getting paid? That's the most important question I can ask, that kind of wakes people up to say, oh, well, geez, if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. Well, if you have a business that relies 100% on you, then if you get sick, then there is no business. And if you're on vacation, there is no business because you're not billing, you're not putting in time on projects. So, the most important thing I think for people is to understand that building a team is not something to be scared of because each of your billable employees should be making you 3 or 4 times what you're paying them. So if you're paying somebody $75,000, they should be bringing in $225 to $300,000 to your business. So they are a profit center for your business, and that's particularly for designers and architects. So if you are not hiring people, then you're afraid of taking and making more money, is what essentially is happening, which is kind of like one of those shocks to the system that if you don't want to hire, then you don't want to make more money. That's what you're
Yeah.
telling me.
Yeah. And really, listen, the reason why we hired a lot of people is to take on those things that we either A, I don't think that I'm that good at, or B, things I don't want to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's really, and you think about there's many things, and I tell this with our clients is that, you don't want a senior designer just sitting around doing AutoCAD drawings because you can have someone paying them a little less money that is really, that's their focus, that's their job. And a designer doesn't want to sit around doing it. It's not something that they find, it's part of their job in a sense, but it's not something they really need to be doing when they can have someone else do it. It's having someone take on those responsibilities that really someone else could be doing and allowing that person to move forward and, like you said, be more billable and making that money, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I have a friend that would also say, the same one we've been talking about, that would say that, well, if you really love doing something and you're great at it, then somebody else should be doing it.
It's like,
And I know that's
I
that's
remember
a
that.
it's an interesting concept. And so here's the thing that's so interesting, and I love this because I've been doing this for almost 14 years in coaching. And one of the things that I've seen is that people are a little hesitant to hire. And then because they think, oh, I want to be doing the design, I want to still be doing the design. But if they're really looking at how much time they're spending on running the business versus design, they're still probably spending 90% of their time on the business, right? So the more you hire, the more you can do design. Well, here's the little weird thing that happens. About 3 years into working with me with our team, a lot of our clients who thought, I want to just do design and I don't want to run the business part, they have flipped over to saying, I'd rather run the business than do the design. And so I'm starting to see that, and the reason why this is happening, and I think it's so fascinating, is they just weren't an expert at running their business until they had spent a couple of years getting trained on how to run a really great business. And then once they started making money and seeing how they could have a better life and more life balance by having a team and really having a business instead of a job, they flipped their thinking completely and they said, wow, I really like running the business instead of doing the design work. So then they were ready to hire more designers.
Right.
And so the interesting part is, of course, that leads to my phone calls to you, Kenneth, which is, can you help this person find another senior or design director or something? And you start building and scaling your business to be a real business versus just a job.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your book talks about it, it talks about, it's really basically about getting paid what you're worth, right? So
Sure.
how do you help them understand that worth and ask for the money that they should be making, right? Because we're talking about billable hours, we're talking about how much more a new hire should get you, but we're seeing people that are not they're not really getting that worth. And so I know that's a big thing with you, and I know you've helped all your clients get to that point. So talk about that a little bit because I think that's really crucial.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you don't have the guts to ask for more, then you need to have somebody behind you that's going to encourage you. And that's what a coach is for, because coaches will make you do it. And I'll tell you this story because I think it's such a great story. And it's one of my clients, Becky, and she actually has put this on video so I can tell you the story openly. But when she first came to me, she wasn't making a ton of money. And she wanted to make more money. And she's been coaching with me, oh, wow, since 2014, so 7 years. And she runs now, she's going to have a multi-million-dollar business this year. So it's really cool to see where she's come. But she also almost died. And if she hadn't done our programs, she wouldn't have had the money and resources to pay herself and her team during the time that she almost died. And she was out for probably a good solid 3 months. And
Wow.
yeah, so, over time, it was really interesting to watch what happened. But one of the things I told her was, you have to double your rates. And she looked at me and she said, how do I do that? And I said, well, first of all, you script it and you decide how you're going to have the conversation with your client, and then you go have those conversations. So I told her in one of our calls, and she's very coachable. I said, by the next call, I want you to go talk to your clients and I want you to double your fees. And she just was scared to death. And the next call, she comes back and I said, well, how did it go? And she said, you're not going to believe this. And I said, well, what? She said, well, these are all business people. And she said, I talked to 3 of my clients, they're all men, and they run businesses. And every single one of them said the same thing. Good for you. Who got you to raise your rates? And I need to do that too. And so she ended up doubling her fees because she was charging what she was worth. But it took
Wow.
somebody pushing her to do it. And
Yeah.
so if you don't have the confidence to go do it, first of all, you've got to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
And I know every time I raise rates, I always get nervous too. And you have to do it in spite of being nervous. You just got to do it because you've got to look at the numbers of your business and figure out what it costs you to make to pay your bills, and then how much you want to make left over besides paying your bills. And that will encourage you to start raising your rates.
Yeah.
So, first, you have to look at the hard numbers because the numbers tell you the truth, and get over your emotional part and just go do what's right for your business.
It's so true. I'm telling you, it is scary. I mean, I remember
Yeah,
for the first time we for a long time we were at a very much lower rate than we are now. And I'll
yeah.
tell you, the first time I did it, I was like really nervous. I was just absolutely expecting rejection, and they were like, "Okay, they did. Okay, we get it." And listen, if you think about just inflation, everything's going up. Prices are going up. The cost to get great talent is going up. So people have to raise their rates in order to kind of maintain that margin aspect of it. But you talk about something really cool in your book about the creative value blueprint.
Hmm. Yeah.
Why tell them what that is, and why do designers think need to have one?
Well, that means that you know what you're worth and what it costs you to operate your business. To me, that's part of it. Is really understanding the cost structure for your business, and from that, you'll know how to charge your clients, and then you'll know, just all the background of. You'll have the right words to give to your clients and say, "This is what it's going to take me to do a really great job for you." So to me, it's all about understanding the structure and what the cost structure is and how that all ties together, so that you can actually say that this is how I charge, and this is the value that I'm bringing to you. So that is the creative value blueprint. You need to understand that piece so that you know what the real numbers are, because the numbers don't lie, right?
No,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
they tell you what you can and can't do, and if you aren't charging enough, you've got to charge more. And
Yeah,
then, but you have to have the belief that you're worth it and that you understand the numbers and can justify it. Because you have to justify it to yourself first so that you can sell it to other people.
absolutely. It's so true. I mean, if you don't believe in what your company, the value that your company brings, and what your team can do, and the expertise that you bring to the table, I mean, it's a mute point. But I think that when you really get that opportunity to kind of put it down, and I think that, it's funny. There's a lot of people don't do that. I don't think they really stop working to work on their business. Like
No.
they're still creating, but like you mentioned earlier, you sometimes, like we do it. We go on Wednesday mornings, we go have breakfast, and we just talk business strategy. We have to do that. It's the only time we have to get physically out of the office, and we have to go somewhere else, and we sit and talk about strategy and what we're doing. And I'll tell you, that is incredible time, because it really allows us to shut the noise off of everything else and focus on what we need to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so important when you can take this, and I'll tell you, this I'm not a reader, to be honest, and this was a super fast read. So I'm just playing, telling everybody. My wife jokes with me all the time, I'm not a reader. But I think it hits a lot of good points to get the thought process moving along, to
Mm-hmm.
get really probably thinking about their value, thinking about what they need, and really to kind of look at the two sides of their business. There's the creative side, and of course they keep doing that. But what do they need to do to kind of run their business more effective? I think it's really great. So, I mean, this is your first of 3 books, right? I think.
Right.
Is that correct? So, tell me about, first of all, why did you want to do this book? I'm just curious.
Well, that's a great question. And I think a lot of us have books in us, and probably everybody on this call today has a book in them. And they don't know what it is, maybe, but they will. And for me, I love business, and I want to help other people, and I cannot be a coach to everybody. And so, if I can teach some of the basics and at least get that out in a book form where everybody has access to it and can afford it, then that to me is a way I can give back to the industry too. Because I'm a real believer in helping people be successful, and I want them to make money. Because if they make money, they can do good in the world, and that's book number 3 is what I call Beyond Business. But you need to make money in order to feel validated for your creativity too.
Mm-hmm.
And making money also pays for your family vacations and your kids to go to college, and it pays for the mortgage. So there's a purpose in being a successful business owner. And so I really believe that my role is to help people be successful business owners so they can be successful in life so they can give back.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I don't know all your clients, but I've talked to many of them just because I've been able to help many of them. And I'll tell you that really, they obviously talk very highly of you because of what you've been able to do for the business. It's been great. But it's really neat to hear them talk about what they've done with their business, and some of them in a relatively short period of time. And I think that's the thing, and because it's scary. Listen, I don't care what anybody says. It is scary growing your business. It's exciting, but it's scary. Because you're like, oh, Christmas, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
Because then you think about payroll, you think about taxes, you think of all the fun, not fun things, and it's wild, but it's in a really incredible time. But you're absolutely right. But I don't know, I think I told this, but we hired a coach for our business, right? For a recruiting coach. I mean, I think it was really impactful for us because we did scale significantly after that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody needs somebody to kick them in the butt a little bit in the right
Mm-hmm.
way, right? And I think it's very powerful to have someone like you in their corner and what's great is that you've seen so many different types of businesses, right?
Oh, yeah.
The small ones, the medium sized, the larger ones, and how they've had successes and failures. And that's powerful stuff. I mean, that you're bringing to the table. Right?
Well, it is. And a lot of the success in business comes from, to me, in our business, if you're good at numbers, which most people aren't when they start because they're creatives, but I want them to be really good with numbers. And they also have to be good at managing their mindset and having that grit and determination to build a strong company. You're going to have to be resilient because you don't know what's going to come your way. And none of us predicted COVID except for our one friend. And, when you have to really look at something and solve problems, I'll share a story this morning from one of our calls. I have one of my clients that I've worked with for years and have done a couple of VIPs with. And she said, she had one of her key people that decided to leave because she wanted more flexibility and wanted to work less. And so she's going to go work for herself. And I just started laughing. I said, oh, we know how that's going to go, don't we?
Oh, man.
Yeah, she does not know what she's doing. And so she said, in any other year, I would be falling apart over that. And she said, but I have complete confidence it'll all work out. And I have a game plan. I know what I need to do. I just need to go hire a new person and I'll just keep going. And she said, without the things that I had taught her over time and just having that confidence in herself, she probably would have fallen apart. But she's feeling very confident that she can overcome this and move past it very quickly.
That's great.
Yeah.
So give us a taste. I know you're doing some other books. What are the other books going to be about? Give us the insight.
Oh, yeah. The next one. I'm really looking forward to this next one. It's called Rapid Growth, and it's really about how to scale your business quickly. And again, kind of the conversation we're having today, but I'm going to give case studies and I'm going to share stories about some of our clients that have had just massively rapid growth. One of my favorite stories, and I've already told her she's going to be in the book, she started working for herself and she was making about $300,000. this year she'll make more, pretty close to about 15 times that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And that's in 7 years. So that's not too bad.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Good for her. That's awesome.
And the best part is it's at about 20% net profit. So that's pretty good.
That's very good. Good for her. That's awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, listen, we talked about a lot of good stuff. I wanted to leave some time
Sure.
for Q&A.
Absolutely.
So I know there's lots of different thoughts and things. And there's probably things we hit, probably things we didn't hit. We'd love to get questions that you have that either that Gail can answer, or maybe I can throw a couple of thoughts in there. But any questions from the group here? We'd love to answer anything. You can raise your hand, just unmute yourself. Don't be shy.
I have a couple of my great clients on here too. So
Oh, nice.
you guys can ask questions too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I don't see how to raise my hand, but I was trying to unmute myself. What
There
are
you
your
go.
thoughts on hiring or outsourcing a marketing professional?
Yeah, absolutely. I would do it because usually for most people, it's not your expertise, but you need to know enough about your marketing to be able to at least know how to guide them. So I would say when you feel like you've got a little bit of a strategy around it, then you can outsource that to somebody.
Yeah.
For
And there
sure.
are some companies out there, Kristen, that specifically do marketing for NPR for design firms. There's one out of Chicago. I can't remember the name, but there's a few of them that are really good at it. That I'll try to, if you email me, I'll get
I
the
will.
one that my client just told me that they're using, and they're based out of, the company's based out of Orlando, and they just hired a firm. It's been really big impact for them in a pretty quick
I'd
time.
love to hear about that too, Kenneth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
gotta
would
remember the
like-
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been great. So they're looking here. They're a builder, custom home builder that's branching off and developing an architecture arm. So, but this particular company does design and architecture, PR, and marketing. So
That's
question.
great. Thank you.
Who else had a question?
Mel.
I have one. So I've had personal shakeups in life that have caused me to reevaluate my 5-year, 10-year plan. And in a lot of ways, it feels like this beautiful opportunity to go any direction I want to go. What I'm finding is I don't even know what all the directions are for a design firm for the long term. Selling a business, launching additional revenue streams, either as part of the same business or partnering with furniture companies, lighting companies, etc. I just keep thinking about all of the options and realizing, gosh, I want to know more about what has been really successful for people. What are other people's like end goals? What are even the options that I need to aim for? Because they are very different than when I started in the design industry years ago. It seemed a little more like, this is the path that you're on. And now with so many people coming with creative ideas and the business changing so quickly, how do I even know what the options are?
Yeah, well, bring them to the mastermind group. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
And Mel, you may be almost ready for another VIP if that's what you're needing to do, because we probably need to dig into creating a new plan for you. But I'll just share a few things that I've seen. Obviously, we've got someone like Lisa on here who has a retail business. So we have some people that are really successful at retail, and I have others who I say don't do retail. So I have both, and it depends on the company, and it depends on where you are, and it depends on what your expertise is. I have somebody that has she has her own workroom. So she has a drapery workroom. I talked to another person this morning that said, do you know anybody that does the same kind of thing? And I said, yeah, I actually do have a client that has her own workroom. And so she does draperies. And we have somebody else who is starting an architectural department within their design firm. We have multiples that do that. And so having an architectural arm can be a good one. We have people that are doing construction. So they're doing general contracting as well as just doing design. So they're doing design build. So that has been a part. We have people who have written books. We have licensing agreements on furniture and fabrics. Oh my gosh, people that are teaching classes, maybe they have an online class that they've created. We have people that have created a complete different brands and have developed products associated with those different brands. We have people who are doing e-commerce So it just really depends on, and I'm just throwing these ideas out there because these are all a variety of different verticals that people have. We also have people that do commercial and maybe they're doing industrial design, or maybe they're doing restaurant design, or they are doing they're doing development. So they're actually building properties and they're designing those properties. They are partnering with people to do the same thing. We have people that are doing VRBOs and they have their own branded line of VRBOs. We have people who are developing their own style of homes that, including the architecture and the interior. So they're doing complete lifestyle brand. Does that give you some ideas? Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll expect all those things happening real soon, Mel.
Yeah.
Make it happen. If you
Yeah, by the end of
it,
next year, she'll have 5 lines of business.
Right. Any other questions from anybody else? Any other thoughts? I mean, I can throw a couple of things. We talk to, clients right now that obviously the frenzy of hiring. People don't talk about retaining their talent, right? I mean, the people are always talking about, I got to hire. But I mean, are you seeing a lot of your clients? Are they getting a fair amount of shakeup in their own firms as far as people leaving because of this great resignation or reevaluation?
I would tell you that I'm seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing this too, where a lot of their employees are coming and asking for big raises, and they may not be really qualified to earn that raise.
Yeah.
And it's because they're seeing that they just decided they should make more money. And that's one of the things I'm seeing, which is a little disheartening because I'm seeing people that come in that I had somebody last week and she was really sad about this. She had somebody who was a design assistant who wanted to be a junior designer, and she's not ready for it. But she went and found a job with somebody else who was willing to pay her as a junior, even though she's not qualified to be that. And so that's what's happening is people are getting desperate and they're starting to hire people that are unqualified or not completely qualified, or they have not completely vetted and checked their references. And one thing I would caution you on to think about is if you're going to hire somebody on your design team, give them a project and a sample project and have them do that for you before you extend an offer.
Yeah.
Because today somebody can talk a good game, but their design skills may not be up to the level that you need for your company.
And I'll tell you, what happens, Gail, is that we're seeing our clients are so in a frenzy, they got to hire. And so they speed up the process and they leave that key part out. And I tell my clients, listen, you got to hurry up fast, but you finish slow. Meaning you got to get someone engaged and get them excited about your company. Once you have engagement, you can control the process of hiring so that you can add a little design project and have them do a CAD test, whatever that is. But it's getting them engaged quickly, and then you can control the process. What happens, a lot of people, the mentality of like, well, there is a hire slow, fire fast. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But they sometimes start off too slow and they don't get the engagement. But the retention side of it, you're absolutely right, Gail, is we're seeing really on the junior and the entry level and junior level designer. That's the one, I'm telling you, my mind is blown on what people are paying for these people. It's insane. Mm-hmm. My quick story is down in South Florida, a 2-year designer came to us and said, for a position we're working on. The position paid, I think it was $45,000, right? Which was a fair rate, but just a little bit high for a junior person, but it's what the market was. And she says, no, I want 60. I said, this position's not for you. She's like, oh, no, I'm going to get 60. I said, all right, I said nicely, this is great. I appreciate it. We'll keep in touch with you. Well, we reached out to her about 2 weeks later because we passed on that. And we did have somebody that was willing to go up to a little bit more. They were going to go up to 50. That was their range. She did get the job at 60. I was shocked. I found out who it was. And I knew right away that person will be unemployed in 6 months. It's sad to say because there's no way that person is worth that. And I'm not saying people are not worth, their money that they get paid, but that particular person with 2 years experience, she was definitely, and we're seeing that across the board with junior, mid-level, low, mid-level, and entry level. It's incredible. So it's a lot of time.
That's one of the things that I was actually wondering about because, and Gail, you mentioned it as well, people wanting all this money. And I've run across that too when I was at my previous firm, designers coming in wanting, $20,000, $30,000 more than the position was paid. So what happens? Is that, especially now when that seems to be happening across the board, where people are jumping ship for much greater salaries? I mean, it kind of leaves people like me and those of us on the call sort of in a lurch. What do you
Yep.
do?
Well,
if
I'll
it's
jump
about-
in.
Oh,
Okay,
go ahead.
you Gail, you're first, please.
If it's about the money, then you should let them go. Okay. And if it's about the culture and the opportunities and the kind of company that you've built and the kinds of projects you're doing, and they're engaged with that, then they're going to take that job at a lower rate, maybe, than somebody else might. But if it's about the money and they don't care about the other stuff, then that's the wrong person for your team.
Yeah. It's the motivators, Kristen. So
Yeah.
when you interview somebody, you have to really dive into what their motivators are.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask the question, like, the question, what do you love about your current job? And what don't you love? What would you change? If you could paint the perfect picture of your job, what is that? They can talk about what they want to do, what kind of environment, the hours, they can talk about it all. And then you can look at that and say, okay, well, listen, I can offer many of these things. I can be flexible with hours. And so they really evaluate, because those are the reasons why they're making changes. It's not they're just making changes on money. That is part of it. And people are kind of jumping for some money. But motivators, it's hard to find those out if you don't really dig, right? Because people are not just going to share why I'm looking for a change. They give you some generic thing. Well, I'm looking for some growth in my career. Yeah, that's not really it. I mean, that might be it. But so digging a little bit further, you'll find out. But I agree with Gail. If they're just looking for the dollar, they're not the right hire. But if they're looking for something that your company can offer, and you can be creative in what you offer, right? You can be flexible. Maybe you have, if you don't have healthcare, maybe you do a healthcare stipend. If they don't, maybe they don't have that. Maybe they don't have a cell phone reimbursement. Maybe they don't have a really strong PTO. There's lots of things you can be flexible with that other companies are not being flexible with, that you might have to offer, and not have the same high dollar figure. Sure. Lots of things to offset that, for sure. No, really sure.
Thank you for your insights, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was a really wonderful, Gail. I really appreciate it. And just to remind everybody's going to get a copy. So Mackenzie, you want to put that slide up for us? So she's going to put a slide up. Please take down this information. If you didn't already give your address, we want to make sure that you get your book. All right. And so you make sure they get your mailing address, and they're going to send this awesome book to you. Super excited about it. And then making sure that you guys get information to get your quick call. So it's going to be a 30-minute call with one of her team to kind of really evaluate, talk about things. And then if you do that and you sign and get this done by December 3rd, I believe it is, you're going to get to go to the virtual 3-day planning blueprint challenge with Erin. Erin's a superstar, by the way. She's awesome on our team. Amazing. But that's 26th to 28th. And it's like a $200 value. So definitely do it. I mean, nobody's getting anything away for free these days. So take advantage of that. And I think
except for these things.
and I'll tell you, you're definitely going to get value out of it, 100%. And I'll just say this, is that, like I said earlier, I worked with a lot of Gail's clients, and they got their stuff together. I mean, they're getting some really great advice and coaching to help them get to where they need to be. It is not, everyone's so worried about how do they scale with there's all this exciting stuff happening. This is the time. It may be harder than when things are calm and slower, but this is the time where you can really do some really incredible things with your business. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's call. Gail, thank you so much. This was great. We got to do this again.
No, let's do it.
And we're going to get, I know that Mackenzie and the team, they'll get the book out to everybody. You can make sure you signed up for the other stuff. If you have questions, I don't know if you have emails, you can do info@gaildoby.com if you have questions, or if you have any questions for me, it's Kenneth@interiortalent.com. And if we can be a service of any way to you, we'd love to be. Definitely sign up get the book and for the challenge. I think you'll have a lot of great information from that. But I want to say thank you so much. And then if you need a copy of this recording, I think Mackenzie can get that to you at info@gaildoby.com as well. And I want to say thank you so much, everybody. But we are right at 3 o'clock. Woo, we did it. And I know you have a wonderful, busy day ahead of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great, safe holiday. And we look forward to doing this again real soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenneth. It was a pleasure.